I had 30 days to create one of my longest and biggest stop motion animations I've ever done. And in this video I'll go over the process of how I made it. But before I start working on the animation, I need to figure out what I want to make. One of my favorite video series I've done on my channel is the LEGO Siren Head series I started in 2020, and apparently this guy is really popular because the videos have gained almost 16 million views so far. So I thought, why not make another one? And because I usually find myself procrastinating a lot, I set myself a goal of finishing the animation within a month. So I quickly began working on the script and realized I had a problem. Siren Head blew up in the last episode, so I had to come up with a way for it to return. My mind went straight to the ending of the Iron Giant, where the Iron Giant sacrifices himself stopping a nuke to save everyone, obviously blowing up into thousands of parts and pieces. But in the end of the movie, these parts begin moving and we find out the Iron Giant is reassembling itself. I took inspiration from this and decided to have Siren Head rebuild itself just like the Iron Giant did. I then roughly planned the rest of the animation, having a car chase ending with the car exploding and Pim, the main character, having to run to this industrial area with the film studio, where I could have a sponsor segment. Once that was done, the chase would continue. I wanted Siren Head to chase Pim to a harbor, where Pim could either get away on a boat or make Siren Head fall into the water. But I was not sure which ending to go with yet, so I decided to figure that out when I would start animating the ending. Now that I had the script ready, I could actually get to work with animating, and the first thing I did was the sponsor segment, just so I didn't have to think more about it. Once that was done, I began on the intro of the video, the Siren Head rebuilding. I built the landfill where the different parts of Siren Head had ended up at. Now, you might be thinking, why is Siren Head at the landfill instead of some top secret government lab? Don't they know it's a dangerous monster? Well, let's just say I didn't put too much thought into that part. After that, I moved on to the part where Pim walks to his car in the parking lot. And let me tell you, these modular building LEGO sets are a lifesaver for creating brick film sets quickly. And if the fancy creator expert modulars are too expensive for you, I can also recommend the sets I like to call mini modulars. They are just as useful and I frequently use those as well. Then there was the car chase part, and I've always wanted to do one, so I was really hyped on finally doing a car chase animation. I built this different version of the car that lets me easily animate inside of it. And I had to borrow this half base plate from this LEGO set because I needed more for the car driving animation. Don't worry, I rebuilt the set after I finished animation. I used several different techniques to animate the car driving. First of all, the simple left to right driving animation, where the car just drives past the camera. Then secondly, the one where the car stays in front of the camera with the road and the background moving. Here you move the road and the background and then just make sure to have the car in the same spot in front of the camera. And to make this easy, make sure you have an animation software with the onion skinning feature like Dragon Frame, which I use. Then lastly we have a technique very similar to the last one, where the background is moving but the car stays in one spot. But instead of manually making sure the car is in the right spot, I have built this contraption that holds the car still at the same time as it lets me move the road below it. I used all three of these techniques to create the car chase, with my favorite part being when Siren Head throws this car to the side, making it roll and explode. The car chase then ends with Pim's car running out of fuel and stopping. Siren Head throws the car into the air just as Pim manages to escape. A lot of work went into this shot where the car flies behind Pim and explodes into flames. Now, you might be thinking I used a green screen here, but no, I did what they did in The Mandalorian, where they used a giant screen to create the alien landscapes. But instead of a giant screen, I used this laptop screen to basically do the same thing. First I created the background in Photoshop and then got some pictures of the car spinning in the air. I then edited all of this together and animated the shot with the exploding car in the background. A lot of work, but really awesome results. We then have some running scenes where I basically did the same thing I did with the car chase scenes, moving the background but keeping the figure in the same spot in front of the camera. I tried doing the same thing in my first Siren Head animation back in 2020, but it didn't look as good because I didn't move the figure back and forth and such. The only thing I moved back then were the arms, but this time I made sure to have an up and down movement and legs moving to make it more realistic. Next up is the part where Pim climbs the fence to get into the industrial area, with Siren Head running through right after. And here comes one of the most annoying shots to animate. Siren Head running through the wall of the film studio. There are just so many elements to animate, causing each frame to take an eternity to set up. and I actually had to do it twice since Siren Head runs into the building and out of the building. I did save myself some time by not having the second part show the entire wall, instead just a small part letting me focus on a lot fewer elements to move. For the breaking news scene, I used a similar trick used earlier in the animation with the car exploding. Instead of using a laptop, I used my iPhone for the news background. Next up, we have some shots of Pim and Siren Head running through the area. I had a small problem though. The run cycle of Pim and Siren Head are very different. Siren Head moves a lot more studs than Pim in the same time frame, meaning Siren Head would almost immediately catch up to Pim. So here I actually shot some of the shots separately and backwards, just so I could make sure Siren Head was at a certain distance away from Pim at all times. Anyway, we have now arrived at the final part of the animation process, the scene where Pim gets to the harbor and tries to get away on a boat. But I still didn't know what ending to go with, the one where Siren Head falls through the pier or the one where Pim gets away on a boat. After a lot of thought, I came to the conclusion that the one where Pim gets away on a boat would be a little bit boring, so I decided to go with the one where Siren Head falls through the pier. I built the set for the ending, and I actually bought this hidden side set just hours before I started building the set, as I found it for a good price and needed a building in the background. I then animated the scenes I needed, and I made sure to animate this boat moving in the water just like a real boat, and I think it turned out really nice. And in some shots, like the one where Siren Head falls to the pier, I animated the boat swaying separately, just so I didn't have to think about moving too many elements at the same time. I had now finished animating everything I needed, and all that was left to do was putting it all together and edit it all. I spent countless hours, 2 full days to be exact, pouring my heart and soul into making this animation one of my best yet, and let me tell you, it was worth every second. But editing isn't just about putting your clips together, it's all about balancing audio and visuals. I spent hours searching for the perfect sound effects and fine-tuning the audio to make sure it's just right. But that's not all. Have you ever noticed those annoying little pieces of sticky tack holding up figures in animations? Well, I made sure to spend hours masking and editing to remove every single one. It's a tedious process, but the result is worth it. And let's talk about pacing. Before I even began editing, the raw animation was a whopping 6 minutes long, but I made sure to cut out anything that slowed down the video or I thought looked off. And just like that, the final animation is 30 seconds shorter. In total, I took over 4,600 pictures and managed to finish the animation and editing in just 28 days, which was just within my goal. Was all of this worth it? Well, go watch it yourself to find out. Personally, yes, it ended up being one of my favorite animations in a long while, and I hope you guys also enjoyed it. I'm glad to be done with the animation, and I'm ready to get working on my next project, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.